Black in the building, man. We got a great topic today. We'll get into it real quick, then I'm gonna get the fuck up out of here. We got a great topic. Let's handle business. Let's do it. Shout out to everybody out there. David, James Youngblood, everybody out there. Erica, Shani, Tasha, Mariah. Everybody out there, man. If you out here in Las Vegas, Nevada, it's hot as motherfucker out here, though. God damn. I mean, when I mean it's hot as motherfucker, it's hot as motherfucker out here. It's like 118 degrees out here. I think they got the temperature on hell. Anyway, man, shout out to everybody. Shout out to everybody out there, man, handling business, doing what they got to do to survive. Let's get into it, man. FBA history is United States history. So let's do it, man. Let's talk about it. Let's do it. Let's get it. Man. I was reading this article, man. And then reading this article, it talks about Florida Board of Education approves new Black history standards that critics call a big step backwards. I'm going to read y'all a little bit. The Florida Board of Education approved a new set of standards for how Black history should be taught in the state's public schools, sparking criticism from education and civil rights advocates who said students should be allowed to learn the full truth of American history. The curriculum was approved at the board's meeting Wednesday in Orlando. It is the latest development in the state's ongoing debate over African American history, including the Education Department's rejection of a preliminary pilot version of an advanced placement African American studies course for high school students, which is claimed lacked educational value. The new standards come after the state passed new legislation under Governor Ron DeSantis that bars instructions in schools that suggest anyone is privileged or oppressed based on their race or skin color. DeSantis has used this fight against wokeness to boost his national profile amid a national discussion of how racism and history should be taught in schools. The new standards require instructions for middle school students to include how slaves developed skills which, in some instances, could be applied for their personal benefit. A document listing the standards and posted in the Florida Department of Education website said, when high school students learn about events such as the 1920 OC massacre, the new rules require that instructions include acts of violence perpetrated against and by African Americans. The massacre is considered the deadliest election day violence in U.S. history, and according to several histories of the incident, it started when Moses Norman, a prominent Black landowner in the Osoi, Florida community, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, attempted to cast his ballot and was turned away by a white poll worker. Similar standards are noted for lessons about other massacres, including the Atlanta Race Massacre, the Tulsa Race Massacre, and the Rosewood Race Massacre. Wow. Our children deserve nothing less than truth, justice, and the equity our ancestors shed blood, sweat, and tears for. Derek Johnson, president of CEO of the NAACP, said in a statement condemning the new standard, "It is imperative that we understand that the horrors of slavery and Jim Crow were a violation of human rights and represent the darkest period in American history. We are proud of the rigorous process that the department took to develop these standards," Alex Lanfranconi, director of communications for the Florida Department of Education, said in a statement, noting the standards were created by a group of 13 educators and academics. It's sad to see critics attempt to discredit what any unbiased observer would conclude to be in-depth and comprehensive African American history standards. They incorporate all components of African American history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. These standards will further cement Florida as a national leader in education as we continue to provide true and accurate instruction in African American history, Lanfranconi said. The Florida Education Association statewide teachers union called the new standards a disservice to students and a big step backward for a state that has required teaching African American history since 1994. How can our students ever be equipped for the future if they don't have a full, honest picture of where we come from? Florida students deserve a world-class education that equips them to be successful adults who can help heal our nation's divisions rather than deepen them. Andrew Spar, the Associated President, said in a statement. Governor DeSantis is pursuing a political agenda guaranteed to set good people against one another, and in the process, he's cheating our kids. They deserve the full truth of American history, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Spar added. Okay, let's talk about it. We can talk about it now. This doesn't surprise me. The reason why this doesn't surprise me is because of Governor DeSantis, whatever he is, whatever racial group he is. These racial groups don't care about foundational Black American history. We got to care about it. We have to care about it. We have to understand it. We have to know where we come from and know where we're going. We have to know that we don't operate on the same vibrations as them. And that does not surprise me about Florida, because Florida is mainly a Latino-oriented, driven state. Yeah, there's a lot of Black folk there, a lot of Haitians, a lot of other racial groups there, but, you know, it seems like the Hispanic community kind of dominates that state for the most part, even though Hispanic is not a race. But that's what the dominant society created. You know how they do. They just name anything. They just name you anything, and you go with it. This doesn't surprise me as well, because if you erase the history, it's like we cease to exist. We got to keep the history alive. We got to start speaking on Dr. Claude Anderson, on Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. I was having this conversation when I was at the gym the other day, talking to these brothers, and this brother was talking about how, you know, he was like, yeah, man, we own this. This is our land. They took it from us. We was already here. And I was laughing. And I was like, you speaking truth to power, brother. He was like, man, that's what I be trying to say. And I was just telling him, I was like, look, man, it's very important for us to understand our history and read and understand what we're reading and process it. And don't just try to race through the books just so you can say you read it. Sometimes you got to sit and take a step back and understand and comprehend what you have read. I've done that. I'm still doing it. And I think it's up to us to keep our history alive, because our history built this country for free without repayment. And what they want to do is eviscerate our history, act like it doesn't exist, because if they act like it doesn't exist, it's called the benign neglect policy. The benign neglect policy, what it does is hey, if I don't see you, you're not there, and I don't have to be bothered with you. And that's exactly what's going on. And I think that's the understanding that we have to start to have and understand about and how these things work. See, the benign neglect policy is very, very, very accurate when it comes to how they do it. Because think about it, if you don't address foundational Black Americans about history and slavery, then it doesn't exist. But it's so funny, our white dominant society Jewish community, we talk about the Holocaust every chance we get, and I have no problem with that because I love history. But why is it when it comes to our history, it's null and void? But when it comes to something that happened in a whole other country, we have to keep talking about it over and over and over and over again until we ping in the face. But when we talk about the atrocities that have taken place against foundational Black Americans in the United States of America Incorporated, it's like it ceased to exist. And it's like, hey, the more we stop talking about it, the more Black folk will stop being empowered to talk about what they're deserving of and what they're owed. And then if they stop talking about that, we can just go ahead and live in peace and harmony. See, the dominant society as a whole, they will talk about it from a distance, on, I would say, a surface level. Let's talk about Harriet Tubman. Let's talk about Martin Luther King. We'll talk about those too. But when we start saying, well, let's talk about J. Edgar Hoover. And why do y'all have that name on the FBI building when he was a white supremacist? He was not trying to establish a system of justice. He was outed by other dominant society people for all the things that he had been doing, like orchestrating and being the architect behind the killing of Fred Hampton, along with the Chicago Police Department, orchestrating disbanding our Black Panther group and sending agent provocateurs amongst that group, and seeking and destroying the next Black Messiah, COINTELPRO. So why don't we ever want to talk about that? They want to talk about everything but what's important. Why is it when you look at the NBA, which is a corporation, you have Donald Sterling, who's a dominant society man, talk all this shit about Black folk, and they just make him sell the team. And then you don't even make sure it's to a Black owner so we can show diversity. No. Y'all don't do that. And nobody complained about it. Nobody said anything, because I get it. You need money, and that's what it is. But when it comes to our school and our education, first of all, it is up to us to educate us. They're not going to educate you. I can't remember one time talking about Dr. Francis Cress Welsing or Dr. John Henry Clark or any of our great elders in school, period. They're not going to teach you that. That is going to be considered radical. That's going to be considered oppositional. that's going to be considered contrarian to the dominant society's perspective on education. That's why when you're speaking to people, it is not your job to try to educate people on racism, white supremacy. It is your job to educate your people on racism, white supremacy, and establish a system of justice. Making sure that the person or group that needs the most constructive help gets the most constructive help. That's all it is. If black folk built the country for free, then without a repayment, then why is it we are at the bottom of everything? We are the permanent underclass, as Dr. Claude Anderson talks about over and over again. A lot of it starts with our mind frame and our thinking. Even me, I always change my mind frame. I try to change it all the time and change the way I look at things and magnetize wealth. You know, I look at my vision board every day and I got so many things in my vision board that I look at especially every time I do a podcast. I always look at my vision board. And one of the main things that I have on my vision board, y'all, is no wasting time on others. I will not waste time on other people. If we are doing the four-wall effect and we keep talking about the same shit and we don't come with no solutions, I have shit to say to you. And it's not personal, it's just business. I don't need to take on anybody else's atrocities mentally that I already have. My problems are having problems. So I don't have time to deal with any of that, and I don't want to deal with that. Sometimes you gotta move aside to move ahead. You know what I mean? You know, I got a lot of things. You know, you wanna create a hierarchy of need within your mental capacity of what you need to be doing and how you need to move forward. Because that's what I'm doing. And I suggest everybody tries to follow that format within themselves. Don't do the four-wall effect where we just get together and we just complaining. I can see if you getting together and you laugh and you joking, you have a good time. That's different. You know what I mean? I remember the times when we, you know, my mom's life, we go to my mom's house. We would talk about the complaints, but then everybody would always be like, well, what they need to be doing is woo, 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 woo. To me, I like that because you're coming up with solutions and not just the problems. But I'm not going to sit around and just discuss problems all day. Like I said, of course, these people don't want to talk about history. Because once you start talking about history, you start talking about how enlightened foundational black Americans are compared to every other racial group. You start to talk about how foundational black Americans are the progenitors of everything when it comes to culture, when it comes to everything, in my personal opinion. That's just what we do. That's who we are. You just got to know who you are on a personal level. And it's very hard to do that when you have so many distractions that you have to deal with every day. You got to have money. You got to have a nice car. You got to have a nice crib. You know, you got to have, you know, any bitch you fucking with or girl you fucking with, she got to be the most banging bitch. She got to be Halle Berry. As black folk, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And it's so funny. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to perpetrate, to fake it till you make it when ain't none of us got no access to no type of capital and no wealth. But hey, man, that is my time. Y'all know who I am. Y'all know what I'm not. I'm not going to waste time on people. I suggest you don't waste time on people as well. Get you a vision board. I look at my vision board every day. And one of the things I have on my vision board is peace and happiness. I want peace and I want happiness. You know what I mean? And I cannot waste time on others. And it's no diss. I don't have a lot of people on my phone. Because I don't talk on the phone to a lot of people because I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not one of those type of people where when you want words of encouragement and inspiration, you want to call Warren. No, you better take your ass to church or you better go see a therapist. I'm not doing that for nobody. That's why I hardly even answer the phone. When I do answer the phone, you better get to the motherfucking point. Because to me, I feel like you're wasting energy and mental brain power on other people's mental atrocities, and I don't want to be bothered with that. And you're taking other people's energy, whether it's through the phone. I don't want to hear that shit. Remember, your problems are having problems, so you don't have time to be worried about everybody else. Guilty, nigga. That's my time. I'm out. Peace.